Hey guys, I'm Leo Mendez and today I have a new video. I got on my mesa de prueba the Coast, the Workshop 01, the Strega, the NTS1 from KORG, and to glue all together, the amazing KeyStep Pro. On the last few days I have considered the idea of making a live set that contains analog modular tools, digital tools, as well as a controller that has expression with keys and also sequences. For these tasks, there's nothing better, in my opinion, than the KeyStep Pro. One of the things that I love about the KeyStep Pro is that it has a good amount of outputs to control this type of analog semi-modular machines. You also have two MIDI outputs, which is why in this case I'm using the NTS1. The KeyStep Pro has 4 tracks. On the first track we're sending MIDI information to the NTS1. On the second track we're sending CV information to the Strega. This works the same for the third track, and we're sending pitch and gate information to the workstat. In the fourth track we have the Coast in the same way, using the voltage control outputs. And to make it easier for you, I use the cables corresponding to the colors of each track. Red cables to the track number 4 to the Coast, yellow to the workstat, orange on the Strega, and finally green, which is the audio output on the NTS1. So, in this way it's much easier to pause the video and follow up the signal path. For mixing, we're sending each of our audio outputs to the Live Track 8 from Zoom. For me, this is a perfect option to be able to record, edit, and have built-in effects on the same mixer. And now, let's audition each of the tracks on solo so you can identify the timbre coming from each synthesizer. First, we're gonna start with the NTS1, and to be able to use it we need to go to Project, and then to MIDI channels. In this case we need to look for the track 1 output and verify that it's sending MIDI over the MIDI channel 1. So now the NTS1 and the track 1 are working on the MIDI channel 1. Now let's take a listen. In this sound we notice that we have some characteristics. For example, it's a square waveform and we also have pulse width modulation. We are also using a reverb called space. Let's reduce the effect a little bit and take a listen. Something amazing about the NTS1 is that we can use the MIDI protocol, so we can also control several of its parameters by MIDI control change. And this is perfect for the KeyStep Pro. We can go to the control section and modify each of the parameters on these knobs. To do so, we need to open the utility menu and look for the control section. If we click this knob, we can notice that the 5 control knobs are listed here. The control knob number 1 can send CC information, and we can choose some parameters already established. For example, the CC43 on the NTS1 is controlling the cutoff frequency. And you may wonder how to remember all these numbers. Well, pretty easy. We have the MIDI implementation table and we need to follow each of the numbers and adjust each of the control knobs. Off camera, I selected CC values for these 5 knobs to have control on the following parameters: the cutoff frequency, resonance, oscillator shape, oscillator modulation, and the depth of the delay. I'm using the track number 1 to control the NTS1 because let's remember that the track number 1 does not have an arpeggiator, but in this case the NTS1 has a built-in arpeggiator. On the track number 2 we have the Strega connected and we're sending 3 kinds of control voltage information. The first one is a pitch of 1 volt per octave. The second one is a gate and we're sending trigger information to the envelope circuit. The third one is a modulation information associated with tones. Something really cool about the KeyStep Pro is that we can use the keyboard pressure to control or modify the timbre and tones that the Strega generates. To do so is quite simple. We only have to go to Utilities, then go to Control Voltage Settings, and we're going to modify the voice number 2. Here we also find the type of modulation and we notice that it's velocity. And this means that it will respond to the force used to play our keyboard. We can also change this value to pressure. So every time we press a key, we have a modulation on the timbre of the Strega. Also, we can adjust the maximum amount of modulation and we can go from 1 volt to 10 volts. On the track number 3, in yellow, we have the Moog workstat. Here we're sending control voltage, both pitch and gate, and we can use another cable to send, for example, modulation. In this case, we're going to use the modulation or velocity output, and we're going to control the filter on this side. In this way, you will also be able to have sequences that modify the filter step by step. Let's do it. First, let's listen to the workstat. Now we're going to select all these steps and let's take a listen. If we press the step edit, we can adjust the pitch, the gate, and the velocity. In this case, that means the cutoff frequency. A good trick for those of us who are not so good with musical theory is that we have a scale section that we can access by pressing the Shift key and one of the following keys. For example, we have chromatic scale, major, minor, etc. Let's choose a minor scale, and on the step mode, all the parameters that we modify on the pitch section will correspond to the minor scale. Now let's listen to the same sequence, but in Doric mode. On the track number 4 we have the O coast and we're also sending control voltage. In this case, pitch, velocity associated with the decay of our envelope, and the gate that triggers the same envelope. And the cool thing of all of this is that if we play the keyboard with different dynamics, we will also have different decay time. We must remember that the tools we have on this side are analog. In other words, sometimes it goes out of tune. On the other hand, digital tools are always stable. This is why we must tune everything before playing. A really simple way that I found is remembering that our keyboard can be split into 2 tracks. To do it, it's quite easy. We need to select and hold the first track and then select the second track. And now we will notice that we have green LEDs on the keyboard section number 1 and orange LEDs on the keyboard section number 2. Now, with all this power, what we have left is create amazing patterns. For example, we're going to create a first pattern. Let's introduce some notes on the step 1, 5, 9, and 13. On the track number 3, the workstat, we're going to introduce a bass on real time. To do so, we have to press the play key and also the record key. On the track number 4, the O coast, we're going to record on step mode. To do so, we only have to press the record key and start recording. On purpose, I only introduce 7 notes, and to have a sequence of 7 steps, we need to press the last step and the number 7. Now, let's listen. Now, let's modify the O coast decay using the velocity in each of these steps. To do so, we need to press the step edit key and modify this velocity knob. On the track number 2, the Strega, we're going to introduce a melody line in a different time division. To do so, we need to select the track number 2, press the Shift key and the 1/8 subdivision. Another detail is that we want a sequence of 64 steps. To achieve it, we need to press the last step and then the 64. In this case, we can record on real time. If we like this set of ideas, we can save it as a scene. To do this, we need to press the Save key, Scene, and then select the step number 1. These scenes are fantastic tools for live sets. Off camera, I did 3 different scenes, every single one with a different combination of patterns. And the best of all is that we have up to 16 scenes on each one of the 16 projects. As always, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Yo soy Leo Méndez y nos vemos a la próxima.